This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello and welcome to the latest Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm Matt Addison on hosting duties once again as we look back at Liverpool's Premier League opener and at some interesting comments from Chelsea boss Frank Lampard. To discuss all of the latest Reds talking points, I've got alongside me for the latest Blood Red podcast our Liverpool correspondents both home and away, Paul Gorst and also Connor Dunn. Gorsty, first of all, how are you getting on?
Yeah, back on Saturday for the game. Still a little bit surreal and sterile about the fans there, but it's good to be back. And true to form, Liverpool kept me until the final minute before me hastily rewritten match report. So that happened a lot last season. So hopefully it doesn't happen as often as it did last season.
Yeah, it certainly was an excellent game, wasn't it? And Connor Dunn also alongside us. Connor, how are things for you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you, Matt. It's my last day in self-quarantine today after my missus got coronavirus, so I'm very pleased to be able to go outside and enjoy some sunshine.
Yeah, it's a delightful day, certainly. Something for you to look forward to. Hopefully that sticks around for a few days. But, on the podcast then, we'll start obviously with a chat about Liverpool's 4-3 victory over Leeds United on Saturday. An incredible match, as we said, Gorsty, and you were there. What did you make of the game?
I thought Liverpool looked very sharp going forward. Obviously, with navigating there, you'd always expect that a little bit more than normal with the traditional midfielders, shall we say. But obviously, Mohamed Salah was the main man, and I think that bodes well. Season obviously running with a hat. I think teams can look to limit Trent Alexander-Arnold's influence, and that will free up space for Salah for the rest of the season. So I think that bodes well. But Liverpool looked completely shaky at the back, didn't he, with so many uncharacteristic headers. Virgil van Dijk was obviously the big one. There was another one, let's say, his Klick's goal, where he just kind of breezes past the midfield and no one's tracking him. So, Klopp said after the game, space for movement defensive-wise, and he was of course right about that, but he didn't seem as concerned as most others were with the defending. And at first, I would kind of agreed with him and thought, well, Liverpool have the best defensive record in the Premier League for the last 2 seasons, so this probably isn't going to become a regular thing. But then I had a little think about it, and I thought Liverpool have actually been conceding quite a lot of goals for a good few months now, obviously dating back to when they were well beaten 3-0 at Watford. So hopefully that is kind of something that is worked on it now with over the next few weeks, because Liverpool are going to have to be at the best defensively when they go to Chelsea on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into more detail on those defensive troubles and the scintillating Mohamed Salah as well, Connor. But I suppose the first thing to say is that it's a promising start to the season for the Reds, and they got the 3 points one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those game where you felt in the last sort of 15 minutes or so, Liverpool they penned Leeds back in. They're starting to create more chances. Leeds weren't really getting out, and you're thinking this is going to be another time Liverpool just found another way to win. The squad come out last year, they had 500 ways to win, and probably another way to win now. But yeah, I mean, some sensational performance from Salah. He was unbelievably sharp. He was head and shoulders above everybody else on the pitch. He just looked absolutely bang at it. I think we said in the season that he looked fitter, stronger, and I think you totally saw that. But then there was obviously a difference in quality. You know, when him and Mane took on a few of the Leeds players a couple of times. Keita obviously had a few decent runs, and as Gordy said, I thought Liverpool looked really good going forward. Firmino guilty of missing or wasting a couple of chances. Perhaps could have taken on a shot where he should have. Little bits and pieces there. But yeah, I was wondering in terms of the defence when we were talking there, I thought actually it had been to do with the midfield, because Henderson was way off the pace, which you can totally expect. Obviously, coming back from injury, not having the best pre-season, not having much pre-season out in Austria with boys and whatever. I just thought he just lacked a little bit. I feel Liverpool missed Fabinho's positioning a lot. I was really surprised that Fabinho didn't start, actually. And I just thought that didn't help the defence at all. And the lines just looked a little bit all over the place. And I think Klopp was saying, actually, after the game, that for the first goal, the two backs were behind the two centre-backs, which is, I've just never seen that for Liverpool before. And then in the game itself, I can't remember any team that's outpassed and possession Liverpool Anfield for 3-4 years at the least. And then I don't think Liverpool will face a team that plays that intense football probably again this season, and outworking Liverpool on the pitch, which was so strange to see. But in the same coin, Leeds aren't going to be able to play like that every game of the season. Physically not possible. So amazing just to get the 3 points and get over the line, really. It probably wasn't the ideal fixture to be opening up with for Liverpool.
Yeah, I think that was it, wasn't it, Gorst? It was always going to be a tricky fixture. We've seen Leeds, obviously, in the Championship over the last couple of seasons play exactly like that. And as Connor says, they're going to cause a fair few teams a few problems this season.
Definitely, yeah. Fair play to them. They came to Anfield, they weren't overawed in the slightest. And they had the right goal, didn't they? I think they've got quite a few decent players. Jack Harrison on the wing looks like a good player. Obviously, Clickett in midfield, and Calvin Phillips, who's now a fully fledged England international, isn't he? So there's quite a bit of quality in there, and obviously still looking to improve on that and build. And they brought in Rodrigo for 20 odd million, I think. So I think they'll have a good season. I think what tends the general theme with Leeds is they run out of steam in the second half of the season because of how intense that Marcelo Bielsa has them and how well drilled they are. And we've seen that early on, really. It's like strikers throwing slide tackles in just to give away goal kicks. It was just a little bit unnecessary and needless, but that is how he has them playing. They absolutely fight for every single ball and will cause problems. I don't expect them to have too many issues with regards to step either. I think they will stay up comfortably, and they're going to be difficult when Liverpool eventually go to Elland Road.
Let's talk about the main man, Mohamed Salah, then, Connor. Obviously, 2 of his goals were penalties, but he was exceptional all action. It's quite often levelled at him that he's almost a selfish player, but actually, I thought on Saturday he was instrumental to everything that Liverpool did in a sort of whole attacking sense, if you like.
Yeah, well, I think, of course, he said, I think Leeds looked to limit Trent a bit more than perhaps other teams have done. And I think in the past, we've seen 2 or 3 defenders constantly around Salah. But where Leeds have had him a lot of the time 1v1, it just looked unbelievable, didn't he? So, they couldn't really get near him. That second goal couldn't have hit it any better. It's just incredible. It's difficult to score 2 penalties in the game because the keeper knows where you want to go for your first. I just thought he was just exuding confidence. I thought he could have scored more than that. He was central to everything Liverpool were doing. And every time Liverpool went forward, you thought something was going to happen. But every time Salah had the ball, you really felt he was making his runs. He was cutting inside. It was like the Salah of first season Liverpool, where he was able to cut across the box, get whips with his left foot. Yeah, just thought he looked absolutely excellent, and looking forward to seeing a bit more of that this season.
Yeah, 97 goals and 41 assists, 154 Liverpool appearances. Also the first player to score a hat-trick on the opening day for Liverpool since John Aldridge in 1988. So not bad for a one-season wonder, Gorsty.
Strange how many people were levelling that on in the second season, wasn't it? I think he might even be in the top 10 now of Liverpool goal scorers in the Premier League. In the league. Which is incredible, really, when you think he's only had 3 full seasons. He's been Liverpool's top scorer every single year. Probably going to win it again. He's up and running already, isn't he? He's just an absolute superstar. I think he's probably Liverpool's one true superstar if you think of in terms of off the pitch profile and so on. He would be certainly up there with anyone else you want to name in terms of global profile at the moment, footballer. So Liverpool are looking to have him, and he's been an absolute revelation since he joined from Roma, 3 years ago.
And for all you can say about, Mane last season, I do believe was better for Liverpool than Salah was. But every time, I don't know if you feel it as well, but every time I feel with Salah on the pitch, something can happen, just something else can happen. He's just got that bit of gold dust that's so rare. Obviously, scoring goals in football is the hardest thing to do because everyone's trying to stop you. And he's just got that something about him. Even if he's not playing well, you have that half expectation he's going to score.
Yeah, you mentioned Roberto Firmino before, Connor. Obviously, a slight concern for Liverpool. But I suppose you could sort of flip it the other way around and say, well, if Salah is that good, it doesn't really matter if 1 or 2 other players are not at their best, because he can just drag this Liverpool team over the line at times. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I think Liverpool would be silly to rely on one player. I feel like it needs a contribution from more, and I think they were lucky in a sense to come away with all 3 points really at the weekend. But I know Firmino obviously has a different role. I just felt there was a couple of situations where should have passed, should have shot instead of passing, should have passed instead of shooting. She should have just made a little bit more of the opportunities. And there was a one-on-one, I think, where he got slid in. I can't remember who it was by. Was it Salah maybe? And you should have made a lot better. It will come. It will definitely come. And obviously it's the first game of the season. It's been a bit of disjointed pre-season, things like that. But yeah, just talking specific, but for me, I thought he could have done a bit better.
Any concerns for you, Gordy, on that front? Because we know he didn't score too many times at Anfield last season, and he didn't really look like scoring again on Saturday.
A little bit for the first time. I think it really started. I think probably should have done a lot better with some things. I mean, as you mentioned there about his record at Anfield, the only goal he scored at Anfield was the final home game of the season, wasn't it? And it was a textbook number 9 header, wasn't it, from a great cross from Alexander-Arnold. He just needs to kind of maybe get a little bit more of a self streak in him, because he's number 9. He's in there to score goals. Obviously, he brings so much more to the team, which is why his goal record, particularly at home at Anfield, was overlooked so last season. Like Connor mentioned there, that chance when he went through and he just kind of had a lazy stab at it, and that was the big chance for 4-3. I think he just needs to maybe just get a little bit of more of a selfish streak in him, because he's a wonderful player, we all know, and so much to the team. But I'd like to see him, as Connor says, shooting when he should be shooting, rather than look for a teammate. And I think if he gets that into his game and have a few more goals, then we can start to see the return that he got. What was it, 3 years ago, when I think he scored 27? Because he's obviously capable of doing it.
Yeah, a little bit of a concern around Firmino, and I suppose you'd have to say as well, Connor, a little bit of a concern on the defence as well. It was a bit more like 17-18 Liverpool, with lots of goals going forward, but looking a bit shaky at the back as well.
Yeah, as I said before, the lines were all wrong, and they did look shaky. It did remind me of a Liverpool, but we'll outscore you what happened, which is exciting for the neutral fan, but it's not really what you want to be doing. Especially when Liverpool have had such an incredible defence, the best defence in Europe for the last couple of seasons. I think there was a little bit of issues with the midfield and the positioning. There's a couple of really avoidable goals. Van Dijk doesn't make that mistake 99 times out of 100. Tracking Click. Jones had just come on after Henderson. I think he'd been on 2 minutes and just let Click run through, and obviously great finish, made the most of his chance, but 2 really avoidable goals and 2 tiny tweaks for Klopp to point out and be like, look, don't make that mistake, track your runners. And those 2 goals just don't even exist. Slightly concerned maybe that Liverpool didn't score any goals from open play. It was all set pieces, but then that's, I guess, a testament to Leeds and how well drilled they were. That was maybe what I'd more look at than the defensive kind of errors, I would say, because I feel like errors are more easily improved upon. But yeah, not scoring from open play, I thought was an interesting one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just to stick with the defence, Gorst, I suppose the question has to be asked that Liverpool almost didn't function that well as a collective. Obviously, as Connor says, Van Dijk isn't going to make those mistakes week in, week out, but the more collective errors and in terms of the zigzag of a line at times, that's a bit more of a concern.
It's particularly, I thought, for Click's goal, where he just kind of runs beyond the midfield, goes into the position to score. But I think what did Leeds score from all 3 of their shots on target? Is that right?
Yeah, 3 shots on target, 3 goals.
Yeah, so maybe it wasn't as bad as it looks. That's probably not going to happen every game, is it? Where a team scores every shot they have on target. So Liverpool clearly limited Leeds' shooting opportunities. It was just the fact that the ones they gave up were very good ones and scoreable ones. And I think you've got to give them credit as well. I mean, particularly Jack Harrison's goal. He's brought that down with 3 or 4 touches and come inside. Alexander-Arnold and Gomez left them on the heels and then stuck it away. So that was a very good goal.
If somebody like Aubameyang scores that goal, people would be absolutely buzzing about him. So
exactly, yeah. So as said, space for improvement. I imagine they will kind of tighten up over the next few weeks. I think missing Fabinho was a big thing as well, because he brings so much cover to that back line, doesn't he? So not having him in there was a big miss and probably, on reflection, a big mistake.
Yeah, we know how important, Connor, that rhythm is to this Liverpool team. And we have seen with breaks in the past, when you think of the winter break, then Project Restart, and now this little break after pre-season as well, Liverpool have at times looked a little bit disjointed after they've had a couple of weeks away from playing. Do you think there's maybe something in that, and possibly over the next couple of weeks, as the players get sharper, the defensive line might improve?
I absolutely doubt the defensive line will improve just because of how good it is and the quality in that back line. You think even Van Dijk and Alisson are two of the best defensive, or the rear guard, and two of the best defensive rear guard in Europe. In terms of the breaks, I wouldn't be too concerned. Obviously, we know how good Klopp is at man managing. You know how good Klopp is getting players to play their best, and he loves having time off to work on things. Obviously, Project Restart was a totally different kettle of fish. I think that would have been so intense for them, still not having got it over the line, having to wait. It's all you would have been thinking about that whole time. So I think I don't think too much reading into that. Actually, such a unique, difficult situation. And then if you look back at the first game of last season, it's Norwich 4 goals, for that, 4 goals, Leeds 4 goals. So it's not totally true that they don't come back firing on all cylinders. I just think it was a couple of defensive mistakes and things to work on going forward, which I definitely assume Klopp will do as of tomorrow.
And this is a full question on the defence then, Paul. I mean, a lot of fans, I'm sure, will be thinking that the transfer market is the solution, but is there another way of going about it, do you think, or will that be the way that Jurgen Klopp goes?
Well, I actually asked him on Friday in the press conference what's the kind of plan for his centre-backs. I said Fabinho's played there as an emergency forward choice at times, and Klopp mentioned the fact that he played there against Bayern Munich and Anfield last season, or season before last. I think he played there against Brighton as well away. So that does seem to be the option at the moment, which for me it is a big concern. I've made no secret of. I think Liverpool certainly need a forward choice centre back to come in, but who that is, I'm not sure. I mean, it's going to be someone they're not going to be playing every week, are they? So they're going to be coming in for X amount of games, and it's a difficult sell to a player, particularly a quality player, knowing that they've got a tough task to come through the ranks and establish themselves in that first team. Particularly, we all know it's going to be Virgil van Dijk and someone else next to him. So it's a difficult one for Liverpool to solve. But for me, I do think they need a centre back. But as Klopp said on Friday, it doesn't appear to be the way for him at the moment.
And just staying as well with you, Gorsty, on this one, another sort of transfer question that Jurgen Klopp will have to ponder is over the course of next season, what will happen with Rhian Brewster, of course, not even on the bench on Saturday. Do you think that perhaps offers a hint as to what he might be thinking in terms of his future?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I was told last week that Liverpool actually aren't against selling, for which, considering the high hopes that they've had for him for the last few years, was a bit of a surprise. He had a fantastic second half of the season at Swansea last season, and I think I look forward to seeing him on loan in the Premier League club, seeing how he gets on in the top division this season, with the knowledge that if he is a roaring success, then he can come back as a Liverpool player. He's got loads of teams after him. I think 7 Premier League teams and the 3 teams relegated last season have all made their interest known. There's probably more that we're not aware of as well. So he's a player in demand, and I think Liverpool are quite relaxed about the situation because they don't need to make a decision for the best part of a month, and he's not going to be someone who's starting every game in between that. So I think Liverpool, they've got a big decision to make, but I think they've still got a few weeks to make that.
Yeah, it's definitely a big decision, isn't it, Connor? Because we saw both Divock Origi and Takumi Minamino were on the bench. Minamino didn't, of course, get on after he had a fantastic pre-season. I suppose that just underlines really the challenge that Liverpool have got with all of these forward players. Yeah,
absolutely. You think, obviously, Minamino come and did an amazing pre-season. Klopp trusted Origi on off the bench to grab his winner, as he sometimes does. But yeah, really interesting for Brewster, because not making that bench, I think, probably says quite a lot about that he is going to go solo this summer. Personally speaking, I think he should go on loan. As Gorsty said, I would love to see him on loan at a Premier League club, go and bang 15 goals in and come back as a proper number 9. And it would be the dream, wouldn't it? But, if clubs offering sort of £20 million, he's got no Premier League experience, it would be hard to turn down for Liverpool, I would say. So it's a really interesting one going forward.
Yeah, I'm sure if he does leave, Liverpool have a buyback clause and probably a long clause inserted into that deal as well. And I suppose another player who was missing over the weekend, Xherdan Shaqiri, not on the bench for Liverpool either. What on earth happens with him now? Because I suppose it's just a really strange situation for the player and probably for Jurgen Klopp as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think he's played. I think he come on against Arsenal, did he? And before that, his only minutes this calendar year was about 20 seconds against January. Such a strange situation. Obviously, he's had repeated injuries. I think he struggled a lot with the calf problem. Liverpool are open to selling him. They have been for quite some time. Severe enrollment inquiry on him in January, and Klopp basically said, it's all hands on deck between now and the end of the season. So no for now, but. I think that interest would have came back had it not been for the situation the club found themselves in. And Liverpool were open to some, so we would have seen him go. But as it stands, maybe there's a little bit of brinksmanship from interested teams who are trying to wait as long as they can to see if they can get a cut price deal. But again, I think there might be one that Liverpool are relaxed on, and if they don't get for them, he'll stay and could be a useful option for Klopp at some point in this season if he gets himself fit. But that, at the moment, does seem to be the big if.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move on from Leeds United. Frank Lampard, of course, not
Hang
happy
on, Matt,
with
sorry.
comments.
Just before we move on, I want to mention one thing, because I saw it on Twitter earlier today, and obviously there was loads of kick-off about the first penalty, loads of rival clubs saying not a pen, not a pen, not a pen. So I urge anyone listening to this, go on to Dale Johnson's Twitter. He works for ESPN. He's done a really good thread on why exactly it is a penalty. And essentially, it's FIFA referees, and they've changed the wording around it. So if the player is looking to cross or a shot and is trying to spread his body, then it's a handball. We're going to see a lot more handball penalties this season. So you can tell all your friends that support different clubs that it definitely is a pen. I just wanted to mention that before we moved on.
Yeah, not a problem. 2 stonewall penalties, I think. But obviously, Liverpool haven't had that many penalties at Anfield over the last couple of seasons. So, yeah, certainly a turnout for the Bucks. As I said, then we'll move on to Frank Lampard. Obviously, some interesting comments from him about Jurgen Klopp and how much Liverpool have spent in comparison to his team. He said he wasn't annoyed by what Klopp had said, but he was amused. Gorsty, I know you've written something on the Echo's website about this. And I mean, Frank Lampard might not find Klopp's comments amusing, but if Liverpool fans might find Lampard's response funny.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it, when if you're not speaking about another team or another player in hugely glowing terms, then it's automatically assumed it must be a dig or a jibe or a poke or whatever. And I actually don't think there was too much wrong with Lampard's comments. I don't think there was anything wrong with Klopp's comments either. Klopp basically said we can't behave like Chelsea, which is a fact. Liverpool can't go out with 200 million in the transfer market the same way that Chelsea obviously have done this season. So I thought that was a fair comment, and I thought Lampard kind of bringing up the recruitment of Liverpool's team, the last few years with, I think you mentioned Alisson, Van Dijk, Keita and Salah. He's right. Liverpool obviously have spent a lot over the last 4 years up until last 2 summers. So 2016, 17, were all huge for Liverpool, particularly 2018 when across the calendar year they spent about 250 million. So I thought both comments were fair, and they'll obviously be built up, and the fans will have to say on both sides as they tend to do. But I don't actually think there was too much wrong with either of them, and maybe that just adds a little bit more spice for the weekend's game. But Liverpool v Chelsea shouldn't need any more hyping than it already will be.
Yeah, what did you make of the comments, Connor? I know a lot of Liverpool fans will Chelsea clearly invested far more in their team, but I suppose the facts are that is probably correct over the course of the last few seasons. But would it really make that much difference, do you think, for Jurgen Klopp?
I think so. For Klopp, those sort of comments and that sort of view is just water off a duck's back, really, isn't it? I don't know. It's a difficult one. Obviously, I've read in your piece, Gorsty, that Chelsea have spent more on transfer than any team in Europe this century, which I thought was quite a telling point. But as soon as Abramovich came in, Chelsea have just spent, haven't they? And obviously, I feel like the transfer ban they got last year has almost been like a blessing in disguise, especially with how their young players did and the fact they're able to spend in this market when high clubs can go absolutely wild and challenge them for players like Havertz and Werner, who Liverpool wanted, obviously. But yeah, I don't think there needs to be any more needle between Klopp and Lampard after the last time they met when that fracas on the touchline and things like that. It's got plenty going on this game without the need for transfer annoyance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw Lampard last week, I think it was, admitted that his sort of arrogance claims towards Klopp was something that he sort of regretted a little bit. I think probably rightly so. But Gusty, do you think this will increase the rivalry, or do you think this will just be something that maybe fans talk about and the two clubs, the two sets of players probably won't get that by it?
I think it will be more of a fan thing on it, particularly the stuff about transfers. I think the players are too bothered, are they? But yeah, I think there will be a little bit this weekend, because there was that little moment, wasn't it, on the touchline around field in July, and words were exchanged. And Klopp actually said at the time, he's not bothered about anything like that as long as he stays on the pitch and it's all done with a full time, which Klopp said it wasn't for Lampard when he carried it on, and he explained why he got in such a mood about that exchange. But obviously, Lampard's come out since and said that he was a bit embarrassed about that, what he said and the way it kind of transpired. So he's kind of tried to dampen it down a little bit. But I still think there'll be a little bit of touchline needle this weekend, which is obviously an extra ingredient.
Yeah, it's a nice thing for us to be able to talk about, at least, Connor, going into that match. But as Ghosty said, we saw Liverpool play not that long ago, actually, against Chelsea, and it was a fantastic game. So probably doesn't need the fire stoked any more than it ordinarily would be.
No, certainly not. I think the game will be a spectacle because you can have Werner against Liverpool. You can have the stars on show, the Havertz and Ziyech if he's back. Then you have Salah, Mane, obviously all going at it. But obviously we'll come to preview Chelsea on Friday's pod, but they're going to be such a different test than Leeds. They have some serious attacking quality, and that defence will need to be better, won't it? But yeah, I don't think they need any more just because of the talent on show, what it means, the recent rivalry, but quite fierce rivalry with Chelsea, going back in the Champions League and things like that. So yeah, it's got a lot to get this game.
Yeah, and it's the first opportunity tonight to see a few of those new faces for Chelsea. Connor, how much are you looking forward to seeing one or two of these new players arrive in the Premier League? Timo Werner, of course, being one of them.
Yeah, very much so. Obviously, Liverpool fans and Liverpool Twitter and Liverpool journalists got quite excited about Werner, looked at Werner, assessed Werner, put tactics of Werner, put Werner in the Liverpool team, wrote umpteen stories about Werner, convinced Werner was coming to Anfield. So yeah, I am very excited to see him play. Just because, he looks a real talent. He looks like a real goal scorer, proper centre forward. And he's going to be exciting. Kai Havertz, another one. They call him the crown prince of German football. He'll be another really exciting player coming. But I'm just hopeful it takes a while for them to settle, more than 2 weeks at least.
Yeah, I'm sure, Gorsty, there'll be only one name at the top of the Twitter trends tonight. Timo Werner, one way or the other, is probably going to make a few headlines. Yeah,
I mean, I am looking forward to seeing Chelsea this season, but it feels weird to say that because Chelsea have obviously, the big rivals for the last 15 years or so, haven't they? So, I think Havertz is the one I'm most excited to watch regularly, because seen quite a lot of him and kind of know what he's about, but I haven't seen as much as I've heard so much about him. So looking forward to seeing how he gets on. Over 35, 46-year-old Thiago Silva at the back, and see how he kind of adapts to the Premier League.
Kepa in goal.
Sorry?
And Kepa in goal.
Well, yeah. I mean, he doesn't need to be the first choice for Chelsea fans at the moment, does he? He hasn't really pushed on as they expected when they spent 71 million for him 2 years ago. So it's going to be an interesting season I'm seeing. Looking forward to watching tonight, and obviously hope they have an off night on Sunday.
Yeah, lining up against Chelsea tonight, of course, is Ben White as well from Brighton. I know he's a player that you've reported that Liverpool have looked at in the past, Gorst. And I wrote a piece over the weekend after the Leeds match, sort of saying how impressive Leeds journalists and Leeds fans had been with him when he was on loan there last season. I suppose he's one for Liverpool fans to keep an eye on. Well,
yeah, I was told that he was extensively scouted across much of last season from Liverpool, and someone that they were looking at, and then obviously the whole situation happened, and he said his new contract with Brighton, isn't it? I think there's a kind of understanding there that Liverpool will kind of continue just to keep an eye on how he gets on in the Premier League, his first full season in the Premier League, and take it from there. I think the fact that Leeds was sold out to get him a 30 million bid rejected tells you how highly rated he is at Brighton, and obviously selling Shane Duffy, he's going to come and slot into that position and will be a regular all season, you would imagine.
Yeah, certainly. So Adam Lallana likely to be another debutant in that game, of course, for Brighton. Connor, are you expecting him to start tonight, and how excited are you to see what he can do? Because Liverpool fans know how good he can be, and it's a big opportunity for him.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I mean, Adam Lallana came out and said that he was absolutely devastated living in Liverpool. He said he cried. He made James Milner cry. Some really interesting comments there. And he's obviously really well liked around Liverpool, really well respected at Melwood. One of Klopp's favourite players, I would guess. But yeah, I'm pleased for him. Really, I'm pleased he's got to move to a Premier League club, and I'm expecting to do really well. I mean, he's very decent quality. We know how well he is. He's got great fit. He's on the turn, and he'll be a wonderful asset for them because he'll bring a much needed class to their midfield.
Yes, absolutely. Certainly a game to keep an eye on tonight, then Chelsea's visit to Brighton. But we will, of course, be back with a preview